Hi everyone, it's Janelle Molony, author and historian, and the Hottie historian if you've been watching on social media. And I wanted to say good morning, hello, and introduce my friend Larry because we're about to take a road trip through the Oregon and Overland California trails in eastern Wyoming, and we want you to come alongside of us. Larry, it's important that we know who you are guiding us on this trip.
I'm a longtime rancher, and I'm from a ranch family that's been on the Oregon Trail for over 100 years. And it's an interest of mine, so it was fun to hook up with Janelle, and we're going to go look things over.
Yeah. Oh, wait! There's something that we really have to make clear before we get going, and that is that the places that we're going, or some of the places we're going, are not accessible to the general public. And we ask that you very seriously show respect and don't try to follow us on this path that we're taking. There's some really key reasons why we need to respect those boundaries of not entering private and inaccessible land.
Well, the landowners have taken care of the trail and the graves for years, and we feel a possession of them, and it's disruptive when people just expect to go wherever they think their ancestors were. And sometimes landowners will let you in to look, but you've got to respect the land. You've got to have the permission. You just can't go with the expectation, because then that ruins it more so for the next people. And so some of the places that we're going to be going are places on people's property that I've known for years, and we've got a mutual respect. And so please don't try to go some of these places without express permission.
Yeah. Enjoy the video.
On July 9, 1864, the immigrant families of Fanny Kelly and Sarah Larimer left their camp near Fort Laramie to head west along the Oregon Trail. At Fort Laramie, we had renewed assurances of the safety of the road and the friendliness of the Indians. We had heard nothing but ridicule of the pretensions to warfare. They entered the Black Hills of Idaho Territory and unknowingly straight into a well-planned ambush. On July 12, their wagon trains encountered an army of Northern Plains Indians. The war chief led them down along Little Box Elder Creek. 2/3 of the army left to begin positioning themselves for an attack on immigrants, now known as the Platte River Raids. The Kelly-Larimer train would be among the first victims, right about here.
Hey, my name is Janelle Molony, and I am right here at Box Elder Creek's monument, showing that in this situation, a few gentlemen were murdered on July 12 of 1864 when the Platte River Raids began here in eastern Wyoming. These are not the only victims of that series of events, but I'm here today to pay tribute to Mary Hurley Kelly, who was only 7 or 8 years old and ended up becoming a victim of the Platte River Raids with this train.
There's the pond, you can see it.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
In camp, an Indian reached for William Larimer's weapon, and Sarah Larimer says that she objected in vain. Her objection triggered the attack. 4 men in the wagon train were instantly killed, plus 2 passerbyers who witnessed the event. Both Fanny and Sarah were kidnapped that night, along with their children. The women were separated and their captors scattered in different directions. Fanny told her little girl Mary to slide off the back of the horse and run back to the trail to flag down help. She did. In the morning, she stood on an elevation, called out, and waved to passing soldiers. But when they saw who was behind her, they fled.
So basically the graves being marked and fenced off is a signifier to whoever in perpetuity, whoever owns this land, to be respectful of this spot. It is not a tourist destination now for these kind of things. It is just, we as the owners recognize we're gonna, take care of that little spot.
Well, we pay respect to the pioneers. I mean, they're the reason that we're able to be here. We respect them, even though we don't know who they are or what they were doing. But that doesn't mean that strangers can come and tromp all over and do whatever they want to do. She's where she always was.
Yeah.
They moved the men from wherever, they just buried them where they found them then.
Yeah, so, because traditionally you'd be buried by the creek in a really nice, pretty spot. Real quick, Janelle Molony, Larry Cundall, and Frank Prado. Frank is here at Barber Ranch. We're exploring our way down to visit Mary Hurley Kelly's grave right now. So yeah, she was buried up on the hill where she fell, but the guys received that one single big grave that was contested because there's a black man. They were going to dig separate graves to make sure that they were still segregated, I guess.
Okay.
And I fully believe it was Josiah Kelly that said, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So I have this question that, granted, I've only been looking around using Google Earth and stuff, but when I read that she was up on a hill looking down over the creek, and I see this and I go, we're not on a hill looking down at a creek.
Well, actually, I don't believe she was buried right here.
Oh, you think this is a separate?
Yes, I believe she was buried.
A little further.
When they built that reservoir, they did take some hills out.
So like this lump that we're looking at in front of us.
There was a few more lumps between here and the reservoir.
Is the reservoir straight, this straight?
Yeah, right there where all the trees are at.
Okay.
If you just follow this, well, the Oregon Trail goes right through here. You can see the indentation, and then it circles and drops down and crosses the creek. And then there's a marker there, and it goes on, and just about where that second dry patch or dark green patch of grass is, then it turns and it drops down in that little draw there and goes.
That's where I think the guy was buried and his body was exhumed again, around that way. Because I think when they were coming through this way, they saw what was going on, and then they continued forward, running away from the scene. And he went up on a knob or a hill to be a tourist and said, what's going on? And they got him. But I think his grave is down that way. I don't know if you've ever found a rock pile, which, I mean, granted, we're looking at these rock piles. They're not organized, but they're just lumped.
No, I've never found anything that way.
I'm Janelle Molony, author and historian, and I'm here at the grave of Mary Hurley Kelly, who was only 7 or 8 years old when she was murdered after trying to escape from the Platte River Raids. Her mother, Fanny Kelly, had, when she was being kidnapped, had instructed her daughter, her adopted daughter, to slide off the back of the horse and make a run for it. Lay down real still until we've passed and then make a run for it and get back to safety. And she did. And that was on July 12, 1864. She got back a little closer to where the event occurred, and she was overlooking the trail, waving her hands the next morning to some military men who were passing through the area. And she was hoping that maybe they would save her. But behind her, somewhere, they saw that there were some Indians who had tracked her down and were following her and were ready to attack. So they thought maybe she was a decoy or bait to approach, and then they would be attacked too. So even though they saw her there, yelling for help, waving her arms as a little girl, they didn't go get her, and they ran off. And immediately after, those Indians murdered and mutilated her. And so her body was found several days later by other immigrants who had come by. They had seen the scene, and some people were just too tired and too scared and too fed up with whatever's gone on that they just passed by, like, oh, that's really sad, but continued on. But there's one wagon train that did stop, and they laid her to rest. They tore off a piece of her dress so that she could maybe be identified later, and she was. And one of the men who stayed to bury her was Mr. George Foreman, who had a 6-year-old daughter back at home waiting for him when he would get home. And I really think that was important for him to take care of this little girl and make sure that she wasn't just left out to the wolves, you know.
Fanny Kelly remained in captivity for the next 5 months while her husband rallied the Union Army to rescue her. She learned of Mary's fate when an Indian came through a village displaying Mary's shawl and scalp.
I am here today to lay flowers on her grave on behalf of the Kelly family, and specifically on the request of Barbara Romine, relative to Mary. And it was really important that she would be able to be here today to visit, to have that special moment. And unfortunately, that was not possible. So I'm going to do that for her. I'm going to lay the flowers down and give her a little something beautiful to look at today. So from the Kelly family,